Boker Tov, we are continuing in Megilat Eicha Perek Gimel, Pasuk Chav Daled. So we hear Yirmiyahu Hanavi is already switched and recognized that Hashem is still here, Hashem is caring for him, and there's still Rachamim. And he continues on that vein, Chilki Hashem Amra Nafshi. A piece of me is Hashem, so to speak. We'll see what that means. Chilki, me, a piece of me, Hashem Amra Nafshi, says my soul. Al ken ochilo, therefore I have hope for him. So here the Ashich explains that when he says over here Chilki Hashem, it's so to speak, we think we are a chelek of Hashem. We think we're a piece of Hashem. We have an Hashem, we're a piece of Hashem. Here he's explaining unbelievable the other way around. Chelki Hashem, Hashem is a piece of me, and meaning, like the love that Hashem has so much that He takes care of us as if He's a piece of us, and therefore He wants to take care of us. He's going to show us the Yeshua, and that's the next pasuk. Therefore Al ken ochilo. Therefore, I have hope for him, and he's going to save me. An unbelievable chidush way of thinking. Tov Hashem lekovav lenefesh tidreshenu. It's good to rely on Hashem. We have to wait for Hashem, and our soul seeks Hashem. And then tov v'yachil v'dumam. But it's good to do so silently. It's good to long for Hashem silently, li'tshuat Hashem, for the salvation of Hashem. And then a very famous pasuk, Tov lagever ki yisa ol bin urav. It's good for a man to take upon the yoke of the mitzvot, the yoke of Hashem, when he is young. Let's get into these explanations. So, first thing, as he says over here, is that when it says here that we have to have the longing for Hashem. So here he says is that number one, not to recognize that Kol Yisrael Aravim Zebazeh, that we're one unit, every single Jew together, the entire nation. And when we do good things, we have an effect on others as well. And with Hashem's chesed, that we have to always rely on Him and seek His Yeshua, His salvation, and not to be worried that we're not going to have that salvation, but to have that salvation, and we will have it. And here he gets into the Gilgulim as well, that a person is sometimes a Gilgul, a reincarnation from a past person that lived, that needed a tikkun. Now, B'ezrat Hashem, closer to the coming of Mashiach, most, as they say, are Gilgulim. And then he says there comes time, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to have the time of Tchiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead in a physical way. So when it comes to Tchiyat HaMetim, a person might think that who's going to come up? If this soul had to go into 5 bodies, let's say, so at the end, is all 5 bodies going to come up? Or is only one body going to come, the last one? Or, so how's that going to be? He says, in the Kabbalistic way, have that faith, and he says, if he brings down from different sources, that it's going to be that every goof is going to come up. Every body that were along the way are going to come up during the Tchiyat HaMetim. And he says that there's this unbelievable chesed that Hashem has to us, that it's a private chesed, and that recognizing that we're part of Bnei Israel, we're part of the greater nation, and we're all going to be coming, and basically words of chizuk that he's giving to us here. And then he says, what does this mean by silently longing for the Yeshua of Hashem and taking on the yoke from when you are young? So here he explains as follows, that when it comes to the end of the galut, which we all want, or Mashiach to come, etc., so of course we need to pray, but the best thing we need to do is we individually need to be a tzaddik. We need to be more righteous than we are wicked as a single and as a nation. And he brings over here an interesting Gemara, and this also gives us perspective to how to relate to punishments, and because here was the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. The Gemara brings a story of Rabbi Chiya bar Abba that was sick, and Rabbi Yochanan came to visit him. Rabbi Yochanan sees Rabbi Yechiya, and he sees him sick, he sees him suffering. He says, Rabbi Yechiya, at least, suffering, a person suffers, there's a reward through Hashem makes a person suffer, but that's going to get rid of his averot, etc. So Rabbi Yechiya says, I don't want the suffering, I don't want the reward. Get me out of this thing, I don't want anything. So Rabbi Yochanan, he sees that he's really suffering, he doesn't want this, and he says, hold my hand. And he holds his hand, and somehow through that, he gives him the refuah, and he becomes better. So now he analyzes this story. So he says, what's going on in this story? He says, there's two types of yisurim. There's two types of tzarot that come onto a person. One is because of punishment. You did a sin. Sometimes the punishment's going to be in this world, and therefore it's like a bal chov. It's like paying a debt. You did something wrong. There's got to be the debt that's paid to the punishment. But sometimes we mentioned this earlier, yisurin shel ahava, that you're already on a good level. You don't deserve this punishment, but Hashem gives yisurin on this person tzaddik, so that it could mechaper on the whole nation, or that it can make a person elevated to a higher level. These are yisurin of love. But yisurin of love, a person technically, even though it's like a gift, a person technically could say, I don't want the gift. I can't. It's hard for me to handle this. That's what he learns from here. That's why he said, I don't want the punishment, and I don't want the reward. How do you know it's a reward? Maybe it's a punishment against your sin. So he obviously knew himself that he was on a high level, that he didn't commit sin, and that's the litmus test, as we said this before, is if a person has punishments on him, he has to look into himself and say, where did I go wrong? And if you can't figure out where you went wrong, maybe it was bitul Torah. You haven't been learning Torah to your maximum. And if you still figure, no, I've been learning Torah to my maximum, then you should look at it as, no, this is me'ahava, this is from Hashem's love to me, to make me even better, and refine me even more and even more. So here Rabbi Yechiya said, I know I'm on that level, and therefore this is like a reward, but it's too hard for me to handle. And that's why the next pasuk is, as at a young age, we have to try being, just like young people, they're very strong, etc. We have to be able to handle a lot and try our best to handle a yoke from when we're young, so that we'll be able to handle it even when we are older. And the general explanation of this is that when a person is strong in Torah mitzvot from when he's young, it sticks with him from when he's older. It's hard to start at old age, hard to teach old dog new tricks, as they say, right? So when you're into it when you're young, it extends with you. And it ends with, I'll end with a small story. And I once noticed this. It was a family that I know. It was 4 brothers, elderly people, 4 brothers. 2 of them are like every day, Shachri, Michan, Arvi, they'd come every single day. The other 2 brothers, they just don't. I said to myself, like, why, how did this happen in the family? Like, these 2 like brothers like this, 2 brothers like that. And then I heard that they lost their mother, these brothers lost their mother when these 2, the 2 older ones call it, were 14 and 13. The mother died. The 2 other ones were 7 and 8. So when they were 14, 13, already from day one, everyone in Morocco, you have to do Kaddish. So these 2 boys, from age 14, 13, they were in shul for a whole year. The 2 younger boys, 7 and 8 years old, they didn't go to shul, they were kids. But that stuck with them their whole life. So their whole life, you fast forward 50 years, 60 years, these 2 guys, the Spanish Morocco call them tefilateros, prayer guys. Every day, Shachri, Michan, Arbi. The other guys, whatever, it didn't stick with them, right? So this is Lisa Ol bin Urav. They were forced into it. They lost their mother, and they were kind of forced like that. But when we take upon a yoke when we're young, it sticks with you. But don't. If someone's older and hearing this, don't fall into despair. As long as the person's ticking, as long as the candle is shining, we have the ability to be young. We have the ability to take upon ourselves a yoke which will be everlasting for us. Be'ezrat Hashem. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashia Maratzak Kadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael ficha chibadam Torah Shneimar Adonai Hafetz man tzidko yagdil Torah ve'yadir.